Inside of me, come walk me down that path. He said, go my son, I've called upon you, this is all your land. This is real, I'm spirit filled, so why should I be fearful? Child of God, you're royalty, these demons can't come near you. When you're living in the light, we fight with love, cause that don't die. I be rooted in Almighty, so be careful, hating on mine. God fight my battles.
How's everybody doing today, man? We back for another live, bro. We're gonna get into one of the craziest prisons, some of the craziest prison footage I've ever seen. But we're gonna dig into Contraband, bro. Everything about Contraband, bro. Contraband runs the prison for convicts anyways. And from what I've seen, man, in some of these prisons, Contraband runs the prison for everybody. Cops, convicts, even the warden, the nurses, and everything. Man, this prison gets dirtier than I've ever seen get down, bro. These people are on a whole nother level. And I'm going to play the whole video. It's not a very long one. And then I'm going to get into some crazy stories about Massachusetts Contraband and how Contraband runs the prison system. So everybody, man, sit back, relax, hit that like button, bro. And please, please, please share this shit out after I'm done, bro. Help spread the word and gets the video out there, man. So how's everybody doing tonight? This is the video right here. Hey, what's going on, my bae? K Razy, George M, all you guys, a lot of Graham, everybody who's here early, man. What's up? How you guys doing? This is the video right here. I'm gonna get into this video pretty early on in this live stream because, you know, we got some shit to talk about after that's gonna be like badass. I'm actually really pumped to get into it. So let's get into this video, man. And just to let you know that this video is not gonna be monetized. I'm just letting you know that right now. There's shit inside this video that it's gonna block me from monetization on this video. So just saying, if anybody wants to look out, I'm here. Boom. This is it right here, bro. Some of this footage is really bad, so I'm just letting you know, man. Like, they got slaves, they got everything. So it's gonna get some pretty funky stuff going on here. But you know, for anybody who's gone through trauma, shit inside the walls, that you might get sweaty looking at this shit, man. I don't know. But here, let's get into it.
Understand that this is not a joke.
First, right off the rip, this dude's playing with machetes. Like,
you understand what I'm saying? At any given time, it'll get real back here.
This is what happened when you fuck a nigga tattoo off, especially one of my brothers, man. Dig what I'm saying? Dig what I'm saying?
I run on BLOODS. I'll keep shit in. Don't edit that gang. You Pyru.
So, just to let you know, the dominant gangs in Georgia, this is a Georgia prison, right? Georgia prison system's literally one of the most corrupt, dangerous prison systems in the country. A lot of it's got to do with the fact that they're private prisons. They're not state prisons. They're privately owned prisons that, you know, are run by state. You know, they're owned by the state, I think, but for the most part, they're private run prisons. But they got they did a shakedown after this video, and after they did all this shit, like after they released all this stuff, they did a shakedown, right? And they found over 4,000 cell phones, like 4,000 cell phones. So that's how they get all this footage here.
Then we got going on in the chat, man. That shit in my bro.
Got them tied up. These dudes are knife fighting.
That's the hell, man. Where easy guy? Where
So that's the intro. That's just the intro right there. This video really is about 10 minutes long, but I'm gonna break in every now and then and just let you know some shit that I pick up on, and then after that we're gonna get into everything, man.
Georgia is the 8th most populous state in the United States and has the 4th highest prison population. The state of Georgia houses over 50,000 inmates in 34 facilities across the state, with 25,000 of those prisoners being labeled violent offenders. There are also 9,600 inmates currently serving life in prison and over 40 inmates currently on death row awaiting to be executed. Since the year 2022, there has been a total of 113 murders inside Georgia prisons, with 44 already this year. This includes one of the deaths.
They said 44 murders so far this year. This is put out 4 months ago, by the way. So
Deaths involving an inmate in June of this year who got his hands on a gun and killed a civilian food service worker with whom he was having a relationship with. After he shot and killed her, he turned the gun on himself and committed suicide. The shooter was able to get the gun by having a civilian on the outside fly a drone over the prison with the gun attached to it and drop it in the prison yard where he would collect it.
yo, look at that picture right there. It says waiting on the drop. Like he's sitting on the roof of a fucking prison, taking a picture of himself, waiting on his drone to drop his gun off. Like, what kind of shit is that?
He had been in prison for 9 years on a manslaughter charge, with his earliest release date being 2043. This murder would be the second death of a prison staff member in Georgia in less than a year, with the last death involving a prison guard being stabbed to death from behind with a homemade knife. The Georgia prison guard job has a high number of job vacancies due to its low pay, with its starting salary at $40,000, which is the equivalent of making $19 an hour.
See, that's the difference, right? I'll tell you one of the main differences of Georgia and Massachusetts already, and something that I know makes a prison more violent and hostile, is that the cops, the COs that work there, they get paid diddly squat. So they would make more money off of bringing shit in and doing shit for the convicts than they would off of their job. But in Massachusetts, there's people making upwards of $250,000 a year on this job alone. So difference.
In 2012, there were 6,500 prison staff employees, but in 10 years that number dropped 60%, well below to 2,500 guards in 2022. Due to the low pay and not having enough manpower to handle the large number of inmates, prisoners will bribe guards to smuggle in drugs, phones, food, and designer clothing. Inmates would pay guards amounts from $1,500 and more for every delivery they made to them.
You see that shit on the bed? They got street knives, cell phones stacked up to the side by side, cell phone holders that you could put on the wall. They got everything in there, dude.
2018, there has been a total of 360 prison staff members.
Look at that. That's 3 cell phones, 5 cell phones, 6 cell phones. 6 cell phones that I see, 2 cell phone holders, fucking street knife, whatever those are. I think those might be strip packages, which is Suboxone. Looks like about a half ounce of weed broken up. Like, they're just chilling like on the streets in there, dude.
Members fired for being involved in smuggling contraband, sexual assault, and
that's all the COs right there that got fired so far for all this shit.
Extortion. In 2019, a correctional officer was caught trying to smuggle in 8 cell phones and 2.6 pounds of meth to an inmate, for which she was going to receive.
She put that shit in the prison suitcase, man. She's beat the fuck up, bro. I don't know how she gets 8 cell phones, whatever, dude. How the fuck did she fit that shit in there?
Received $10,000, but she was caught and would eventually be sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Prison guards would even...
Oh, but just listen to what she was about to bring in again real quick, because it's a massive haul. Listen to this.
For which she was going to receive $10,000, but she was caught. In 2019, a correctional officer was caught trying to smuggle in 8 cell phones and 2.6 pounds of meth to an inmate, for which she was going to receive $10,000, but she was caught and would eventually be sentenced to 5 years in federal prison.
I'm just saying, in Massachusetts, you could get paid for that shit, bro. You could get paid way more than 10 grand. I know, man, on the low scale, and the ones that I do know of, the COs made more than 10 grand off of much less than that. But that's just up here.
Prison guards would even go above and beyond when an officer was on an inmate's payroll. The inmate paid the officer to kill another female officer who decided to stop moving drugs for him. The inmate would later attempt...
Hey, what's good, guys? John Kearney, Kicks Fix, Jeff E, K Razy, Mike Ills, David Tonham, K Razy. What's good, man? Jeff E, what's up, man? How's everybody doing tonight?
To send another hit on another officer, but the hitman ended up killing the wrong person. Now the inmate is currently on trial awaiting the death penalty. Even a prison warden was caught drug...
Yo, so did you hear that one too? This dude, right, sitting in his prison cell. Let's listen to this real quick. Sends hits out on people, right? Gets a nurse whacked. Then he tries to get it for not bringing in the drugs he wanted to anymore. She's like, I don't want to do it no more. He's like, oh yeah, all right. He has another CO who he pays to go kill her. And then he fucking, yeah, this shit's wild.
Drugs for him. The inmate would later attempt to send another hit on another officer, but the hitman ended up killing the wrong person. Now, the inmate is currently on trial awaiting the death penalty. Even a prison warden was caught drug smuggling, and it was found that the warden was getting paid well above $44,000 from various inmates to help smuggle in drugs and other illegal items.
Various inmates. So he was on the payroll of various convicts within that prison. And if you've seen that prison, it doesn't need any more contraband. Them walking around there with machetes and handguns, killing nurses and COs and shit. Like, I mean, it doesn't get any more deadly than that. But at the same time, the motherfuckers are making money in there, and they got slaves. Wait till you see the next shit.
In 2023, prison officials would shake down and search inmate cells, and that year they would find a total of 6,300 cell phones, 1,432 pills,
Ignorant, what's up, brother?
242 pounds of cocaine, 300 pounds of...
Look at this right here. This is what I was talking about. They did a shakedown, right? They found $4 million in currency, 349 keys of meth, 110 kilograms of cocaine, 1,432 pills, 136 keys of heroin, 1 key of Fetty, which is enough to kill fucking a million people probably, and 139 keys of marijuana. Where the fuck are they putting all that shit?
marijuana, 769 pounds of meth, fentanyl, and heroin.
But did you see the floor too? On the floor, there was a key of meth on the floor.
Which investigators would calculate the street value to be a total of $4,320,000 worth of contraband seized. The year before, an inmate with access to a cell phone scammed the Charles Schwab Bank out of $11 million, and he would eventually be caught. After he was released from prison, he was arrested by federal authorities and would eventually be sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. The Georgia Department of Corrections would document a total of 15,000 gang members, with the most well-known gangs being 4,700 Bloods, 3,900 Gangster Disciples, and 1,400 Crips. In October...
You see that? So they're about to talk about a gang war that popped off and shit, right? And the cool thing about this is that they have so many cell phones that they can document the actual reality within these walls. Because say one of these dudes gets out and tells this story. Who's going to believe him? I tell stories sometimes, people don't believe me. And it's nothing like that. So
October of 2024, the federal government Department of Justice would launch a full investigation into the horrific conditions and corruption in the Georgia prison system. Due to the lack of prison staff in 2021, there were a total of 702 sexual abuse acts against inmates in Georgia, with most of these victims being a part of the LGBT community. Gangs that run housing units often target LGBT inmates with physical violence to force them out of the gang's housing unit. For example, in 2022,
you see what's going on in that picture?
24-year-old open...
Did you see what was going on in there? Look at this. All right, you're going to see people serving drinks. You're going to see people being footstools. It's some sick shit.
Victims being a part of the LGBT community. Gangs that run housing units often target LGBT inmates with physical violence to force them out of the gang's housing unit. For example, in 2022, 24-year-old openly gay and transgender inmate Tristan McKee, who...
I'll let this play in a second, but you would have to kill me, bro. I don't give... Right? You're not... I will never be your footstool, bro. Facts. I don't care how deadly you think you are, bro.
But a history of mental illness and suicidal ideations, was placed in a gang housing unit that was very hostile against LGBT inmates. He was attacked and beaten by Bloods and Gangster Disciples, and while he tried to run and escape, he was stabbed 12 times, including being stabbed in his eye, and prison guards would respond 45 minutes later. Hours later, he was pronounced dead. The day before his death, he told prison guards that he needed help leaving his housing unit because he felt that his life was in danger, but the guards ignored him. At the time of his death, Tristan only...
Listen to what it says about the time of his death, how long it took for them to get there and shit. Listen to this.
Only had 1 more year in prison left until he was eligible to come home. Rapes and tortures are very frequent in Georgia prisons. For example, in August of 2020, an inmate passed a note to an officer stating that the inmate in the cell next to him kept screaming for help. So when the officer opened the cell next door, the officer found an inmate who had been held and tortured for almost 4 days. He had been injured in his eye and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. He was airlifted to an outside hospital where he would later survive. Another incident in that same month involved an inmate who dug a hole in the wall into another man's cell, where the inmate would slide his way into the other man's cell, beat him, and rape him. A female officer would find the victim hidden under his bed with his head bleeding.
Do you see that right there? This dude posted a picture on social media that says Whelp, right? Whelp, right? With the victim, our victim under his bed, right? With like tied up with blood on his arms. Like you can obviously see cuts on him and shit. Like that's some brazen shit right there.
He was hospitalized for head trauma requiring 26 staples and was treated for rib fractures and fractures to his fingers. An even worse story is when in 2022, 18-year-old inmate Jacob Daniels was attacked by 3 individuals who broke his wrist and his feet and stuffed fillings from inside a cut-up mattress in his mouth, stabbed him in the throat with an ink pen, and cut his wrists with glass from a broken light bulb. The attackers, Cody Brock and James Collins, were charged with malice murder, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment.
That's some sick shit. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I have no respect for motherfuckers who do that to people. That's not only is that you're doing that to somebody you know you can get away with it, right? Makes you not tough at all, period, right? And get a life, bro. Like make a knife, cut one off the bed and be a warrior, bro. Don't like you're breaking light bulbs and slicing wrists and shit. Like what kind of gay shit is that?
But also prison guards have been known to secretly work with gangs in prison and being on their payroll and sometimes play a part in the role of an inmate's death. For example, in September of 2022 at Phillips State Prison, 3 Blood gang members, including one of them, 19-year-old Malik McBride, planned to run into a rival Crip member's cell to kill him. The Bloods told the prison guard that was on duty at the time their plans, and the guard agreed, so the prison guard unlocked the Crip gang member's prison cell and walked away. Shortly after, the 3 Bloods ran into the Crip's cell, but with the Crip gang member being smart and already on point, he was prepared for an attack. The first Blood to enter the cell was Malik McBride, and the attack didn't last long because as soon as they went in, the Crip stabbed Malik in the head and with a fatal stab wound to the heart.
Yo, that's not the worst part though, right? The worst part comes next, and I'm going to point it out when they say it. I'm not going to give it up.
The other 2 Bloods ran back to their cells and locked their doors, and Malik attempted to run back to his, but he collapsed before he could make it. After this incident, the Crip was not charged with Malik's death because he admitted it was self-defense, but one of the Blood members was charged with felony murder for his involvement in initiating the attack. When word was spread throughout the Georgia prisons of Malik's death from a rival Crip member, it started a gang war in 3 separate prisons in the state of Georgia. On October 1st, 2022 at Coffee State Prison, a war broke out between Bloods and Crips and 2 inmates were taken to the hospital.
So this is what I heard from a California convict, right? One that came on my channel. What happens when you got the cell phones like that so jam-packed throughout the system, I mean, is you can contact the other prisons, be like, yo, one of our people just got, taken out by one of these dudes. Make sure you get these dudes, bro. Like, it's on. And then, boom, you got a war breaking out throughout all the prisons and shit.
On October the 2nd at Maycomb State Prison, a war caused 13 inmates to be taken to the hospital. And on October 3rd at Ware State Prison, 5 inmates were sent to the hospital. In the
B. Luke from the Bounce Back podcast, bro, making it real down in Florida, man. Salute, bro. I hope you're having a good time down there, bro.
end, a total of 2 gang members were killed and 20 gang members were hospitalized. The prison guard that opened the original Crip's cell door was placed under investigation for the incident because he failed to cooperate. He was eventually fired.
So he got fired for being an accomplice to a murder. Like, that's not fair. One of those dudes, right? So his co-defendant, right? So 3 dudes mount up. They're going to go take someone out. One of them gets killed instead. And instead of charging the dude who kills one of them because it's self-defense, they charge one of the kid's co-defendants that was going to go kill that kid with murder instead. They charged him with murder because his friend got killed during the commission of the crime for instigating the crime to happen and leading the kid to go do it. That's wild when the prison CO who let them in the cell and has an obligation, and without him, this doesn't happen, doesn't even get smoked, doesn't get nothing.
In the end, a prison facility is no place for any man, and it is a blessing to come home from it. It is crucial to never take your freedom for granted because not everyone sentenced to prison makes it home.
No,
I will
late
not.
night vibe, you know. Late night vibe, we playing PS5. Yeah, man.
Yo, look at these dudes in their own cells. Listen, look at this. This is a cell.
No. Late night vibe, we playing PS5.
That's a big screen TV, by the way, just to let you know.
You know what's going on?
Yo. That's wild as fuck, bro. I'm just saying, man. I've never seen a prison like that before in my life, right? Where they get the machetes from, right? So let me break something down for you within prison. So prison, you can make many different types of weapon. Contraband is something that you are not allowed to have. Contraband could be anything though, right? So you can make a t-shirt contraband. You rip the arms off the t-shirt, you rip your sleeves off, and it's now contraband because you have taken it and changed it from what it was. So that's anything within the prison walls. If you take your sheet and rip sheet line off it and they find your sheet, technically that's contraband. Anything that you take and change it from what its original thing is and make it into something else is technically contraband. But what happens when you get caught with contraband such as that, it can vary, right? So if you get caught with a weapon, it can be up to 14 days in the box. And there's no case though. In the feds, from what I hear, in the feds, you're gonna catch a case for a weapon, which is crazy. And when I first got to Sousa Baranowski, I actually was cutting a knife off the back of my bed. And my next door neighbor was an old school convict. His name was Matt as well. He had long gray hair. He was kind of shorter. He lived in cell 19. He lived in cell 18 and I lived in cell 20 in N2 back in the day when N2 was all single cells. There was no double cells on the bottom tier, no double cells in the top tier. This was all single cells. And Sousa Baranowski was still the second max in the state. Walpole was still open. And my neighbor, this guy, Matt, he was an old man, but he used to try to, school me on cutting metal and shit. And he told me one time, he's like, listen, don't get caught with that weapon because it could be a charge in court. And I was thinking, ever since I got told that at the beginning of my sentence, I thought that for a little while, but it really wasn't true. The only thing you get is a category 1 offense, and you're going to get 14 days in the hole. And then you're going to probably get some other category 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 offenses, because they will lock up those offenses and hit you with every single type of offense. And at the bottom of every charge on every disciplinary report you'll ever receive is attempting to commit the above offense, any of the above offenses, or blah blah blah, right? So it's basically like a charge that you could throw in with anything to just attack on another sanction, right? So what happens when you get caught with contraband is you're going to get sanctions, and that's, a sanction is considered a whole ticket, or canteen restrictions, phone restrictions, anything. You can get restrictions for anything that they provide. Now they give restrictions on tablets, they give restrictions on, your TV, they can give restrictions on whatever, especially if you're in disciplinary detention unit. Your TV is pretty much your only, your joy, your pride and joy. So if you get in trouble in disciplinary detention unit or DDU, they're going to come in there, they're going to strip with the move team. They're probably going to bundle you up because you ain't giving it up without a fight. And then they're going to take all your shit out of your cell and they're going to put it in a little bucket and roll it somewhere and leave it for fucking however long, right? Bats, what's going on, man? Lee Medeiros, John Kearney, Kicks Fix, man. Everybody make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate you guys for showing up, man. It's going to be a good one, bro. So let me get into these stories, bro, right? So when I was in Sousa Baranowski, I spent 15 years total in that facility. And I spent 17 years in state prison and adult prison in general. And I learned something, right? What I did learn is that what you're not supposed to have can be worth a lot of money, right? And money inside of the joint is power and respect, as well as, easy living, comfort. And that's the real goal in everybody's sentence, is to live comfy, right? You want to live as comfy as you possibly can, not be stressed out about where your next meal is going to come from, because let's face it, you can starve in prison, like not physically, like die probably, but you will be very hungry. You're going to lose a lot of weight and your stomach's going to be touching. Like, you're going to need canteen, you're going to need food. And for all you family members of people out here that are in the joint, man, take care of your family in there. It's very necessary. Canteens are super expensive, right? So what we do is we devise ways to get things behind the wall. And there's so many different ways. I'm not going to open up any new ways because people can find those out themselves. We're very ingenuitive, but I am going to break down all the ways we got caught doing, right? And some of these, a lot of these are big incidents and they're in the news. And so allow me to present some video footage and news reports of all these different situations that I'm going to get into, right? And it is pretty fucking crazy, right? So I'll just start off with a story on the first one because the first one, right? It's a story that didn't hit the news. I was in the Max, right? And the non-contact visiting rooms are put off to the side, right? So you walk into the visiting room. So to get a visit, when you get a visit, they're going to call you. If you have had a ticket for violence or drugs, you're going to get a non-contact visit for about 6 months. If you get another ticket while you're on that, it just gets extended for 6 months. And these are considered not a sanction. It is automatic. If you get caught with a dirty urine, any type of drugs, or, you know, whatever, paraphernalia of any sort to do with drugs, like a K2 pipe or roaches that you smoke K2 with, or Suboxone spoons or straws, whatever it is that they can get you for, pills, whatever, they're going to hit you with that non-contact visit. If you get into a fight, you're now a threat to the institution, non-contact visits, which sucks because being able to hug your family is a huge thing and not everybody's bringing in drugs, right? So the non-contact visiting rooms, you don't get strip searched. They don't ever think nothing's coming through there because really, you can't really bring nothing through there unless you have like a Dremel tool and you drill right through the glass wall or something. Like there's no way to get it. So you don't get strip searched going in there. You might get patted down and told to go to this room, and then they'll go to a computer, they'll buzz your door and then go back in. So what we would do is we would go in for our non-contact visit. If one person would go out there, they would call a friend. So they would bring two people, probably sometimes it would be two girls that come up and they would call out two people and they'd bring a softball size package like this, right? I'm talking about a softball size package. I'm not playing softball size package for a reason. And the reason was because visiting room one, non-contact visit room one was offline. It was all the way at the first visiting non-contact visiting room in the whole non-contact visiting room. And as soon as you walk in, it's all the way to the left. You could get a visit that's all the way to the right. You could get a visit that's straight ahead and the cop could pretty much see. But what you do is just, when you go in there and your friend goes in, you'll go to different tanks. You go down there real quick. You take your shirt off, sweep the package. So this is what happens, right? Your visitors will come in. They'll go by that first visiting room because everybody goes by that first non-contact visiting room. And what you do is you lean over, throw the package right through the missing telephone hole because there was no little voice hole. So there's a metal thing going over the hole, right? And there's like a little filter thing where the sound can go through. But for some reason, whatever reason, that visiting room was not complete. There was nothing put in that little thing. So they just left the visiting room online and there was a big hole going right through the visiting thing. So you could throw a package through it. Then when we go down for the non-contact, just sweep it over with your shirt, pick it up off the floor because there's two traps in each door for the non-contact visiting room. A trap on the top, in the middle where like a food slot, and then a trap on the bottom for like the ankle shackles, right? To put the ankle shackles on through the door. Because if you get pulled out of the gym, if you get pulled out for a strip search, if you get pulled out for any reason, urines, whatever, they put you in these non-contact visiting rooms and you'll sit in there for a little while, whatever. But that's where you go. And so we would get these big packages. They would have to bring it back to the block and not get caught with it, right? So when you go to your visit, you'd sit in your visit the whole time with this big softball sized package, bro, probably doing whatever. I mean, as long as it's wrapped up where you can rewrap it and shit, but you're not tucking anything like that, right? So you just put it in your thing and walk back because you don't get strip searched with the non-contacts. Now they changed that. Now you get strip searched with the contacts. They figured this whole situation out and it's been long busted. This was in like 2010 or 8 when this happened. No, this was 2010 when this was all happening. 2009 and 10. For a little while this went on and we were getting so much shit. I'm talking about ounces of coke, fucking ounces of weed, dope, crack, fucking everything was coming through this shit, right? And it's funny because during this time that this was going on, we were coming back from the gym one day, and I'm gonna mention the first name and the last initial of somebody, Brian J. Anybody who knows Brian J, he's a Boston kid, real smooth, like good talker. He's a smooth cat, bro. He's always he got his hands in the mix and something. And we were all coming back from the gym one day. Dude reaches over and fucking wiggles the medication room door just to see if it was open, because they got the med cart in there with tons of narcotics in it, right? So he wiggles it and the fucking door opens. We're in there, bro, right? Dude slides in there, bro, jacks open the narcotic drawer, takes out all the narcotics. Boom, we get back to the cell, popped them all out, bagged them up, tucked them, and dude never got caught for that shit, bro. We had packs of Clonopins, Adderalls, fucking, morphine pills, fucking baclofens, just everything, man. It was crazy. But that was one of those times where I was like, damn, bro, that's a come up. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that was this first story on the list of contraband stories, bro. And the next one is a much bigger story, much bigger. So the next one's involving a correctional officer in the Max. And as far as I know, this is one of the very few officers that's ever got caught bringing drugs into a maximum security facility. And his name was Bitch, right? No, I'm just joking. His name was Beach, right? His name was Beach. Bro, this dude was a big white guy, had a red beard, or it was like dirty blonde, but there was two different Beaches that worked there. One of them was a big, bald, redheaded dude, right? He's big, bald head, red beard, and he became an ip. He was the biggest puke I've ever met in my life. He stopped me from fighting, like broke up a couple of fights I was in, and he would always go extra. He was an ip that, he was the type of dude who saw dudes fishing on the rec deck from so from P1 and P2, they see the yard, right? In the north side yard, and you could throw things off the yard, throw things off the rec deck or from the yard onto the rec deck. Sometimes you use a line attached to a battery and you throw it from the yard to the rec deck, and you just scoop in the line and you pull the stuff in, and you send it on a line, you tie it to the line and they'll pull it in. But this dude was the type of dude who would see that happening. He would sit up in the windows above the yard and watch guys like hawks. As soon as something flies, boom, he's out there. He locks the rec deck down. He's searching the middle grounds in between the fence in the rec deck area, looking for something, dude. He's strip searching guys that are at the fence. He's just one of them guys who goes way above and beyond, bro. And I hated him, dude. I didn't like that motherfucker at all. But then there's another Beach. He worked around the prison. I seen him around a lot. He was a younger guy. He was only 30 years old when he got caught. And this dude was, he always acted like he was like about the CO shit, right? At first, anyway. He was like about that CO shit. They moved him over to K2, which is the South Side block in the maximum security prison, Sousa Baranowski. The difference between the South Side and the North Side is the gangs and the atmosphere. On the South Side, I feel like it's a lot different atmosphere. It's almost like a medium security mixed with maximum security atmosphere. The cops are a lot more stricter. For whatever reason, if you go on the top tier, they'll shine their light at you and tell you to get off the top tier, do bitch ass shit like that, right? And on the North Side, the cops won't say nothing like that. I'm sure they're a little bit more timid and afraid to do shit, because on the North Side is where they put the heavy hitters and most of the aggressive dudes. But the gangs, if you're in a gang and you're a heavy hitter, you're still going to go to the South Side. If you're a Crip, a GD, and out, I think it's La Familia, and the Kilby Street dudes from Worcester, Southie guys from South Boston, white guys from South Boston, and, whatever gangs are like, basically any gang that's not a 5-point gang is going to go over there. So 5-point star gangs like Kings, Bloods, Nietas, they're not 5-point gangs, but they are on the North Side and the South Side. They actually moved all of them to the South Side at one point. But for the most part, they keep them separated. So like all the 6 points and all the 5 points are on different sides of the prison. All the white dudes that are beefing with each other, the Charlestown and Southie guys, are on different sides of the prison. And that brings up a good question. Somebody at the beginning of this live stream asked me, what year was that beef between the Charlestown and the Southie dudes? And I will say that the beef between the Charlestown and Southie dudes started in 2005, I believe it was. That beef between the Southie dudes and Charlestown dudes in the hallway, where Ricky Evers and for Charlestown anyways, and then Stevie Nux for Southie, and like Mikey Fontaine and all them, and versus all of us, like George Parrard, Mikey Freeman. I forget exactly everybody when I know Ricky Evers was in that shit. and a few other dudes were in that shit that I know pretty well. But that's something I'm gonna have to fucking drag through my memory to kind of remember all the people that were involved in it. But that happened in around 2005, I think. And then after that, they made the Walpole. They put all the boyos in 3 block, and they moved all the Southie guys to the medium end or the minimum end. And then soon after that, when Sparky and what's his face jumped Bubba Conway in the laundry room, and they threw the Ajax in his eyes, that's when they took the boyos, shipped them over to the max, and said, we had enough of this war and you guys are done. And they put all the boyos in the max. So when I got to the max, that's why I became so close to all those guys. But I am gonna make a video because I did do a lot of time on the south side of the prison. I went to the south side of the prison and I bidded with all the Southie guys for a long time. And I do have a lot of respect for a lot of those Southie Lynn guys. There's some fucking really solid dudes, old school gangsters, legends that have been around for our grip. And, you know, they did some of my tattoos. I've spent a good portion of my bid, especially with a dude named Kevin. I'm not going to get into his last name right now because I haven't made the videos yet. I haven't talked to anybody, but Kevin K, if anybody wants to know, like Dorchester dude, Dot Ave, real good dude, bro. His father was in Mafia and shit. But yeah, man, you know, I met a lot of real heavy hitters, bro. Good dudes that taught me a lot over there on that south side. So I'm going to get into that at one point. But, you know, I met people from every side, and I've actually bonded with people from every side. So I never got involved with the Southie Charlestown beef. And as a matter of fact, if you become a boyo now, probably, I'm not even sure if we're still recruiting, if dudes are still doing it up there. I'm not in the loop with that shit. But if you do become one, like as of when I left, you don't take on the responsibilities of that beef anymore. That beef is dead. People do not promote it because it just causes more division and separation. And at this point, we do have guys from both sides on our side, right? We got guys from Southie on the team. You know, salute to Sully, bro. He's a solid ass dude. But in the grant it said Billy Breimer, my little buddy, rest in peace, Paul Jr., Barry Paul Sr., Barrels. Yeah, man, you know, rest in peace to everybody, all the good ones that passed away, man, all the good ones that are still down. Fact, bro. Tewksbury up in here real quick on my break. Individual Entertainment. That's the first time I've had a Tewksbury guy in here for sure, man. Salute to you. Bartell. Okay, yeah, Billy Bartell. Yup, that's a serious dude. That's a good dude right there, bro. Lee Medeiros. I would have caught my 5:05 a.m. a day before 2011, 2012. Just kidding. Yeah. Do you remember SECC? Shit, oh yeah, you know, honestly, SECC was closed down probably before I even got to the state system. That's been, you know, they had weeds growing out of the cracks in the walls by the time I got there. That's an old ass joint. But I do have stories from SECC from an old con that's gonna come on soon, which is weird that you brought that up. But yeah, SECC, I can't wait to hear about that place. But yeah, so let me get into these stories again, bro, right? So this dude Beach, bro, right? I can't believe I kind of lost track of my train of thought real quick, but this dude Beach, I'm gonna get to that story right now. Boom. I'm gonna share it real quick. Hold up. Bear with me, guys. Boom. This right here, bro. So this is the newspaper report of Beach ass motherfucker, right? I fucking couldn't stand. Actually, you know what? When this was all happening, I'm gonna tell you the story. I was in the prison when this was happening, and I'm telling you, this shit was flooded, and it was crazy. But I'm gonna read the report first before I tell you that, and then I'll get into it because it's fucking wild, bro. Right? Hold on. I think they might have actually did a video too. They did, but I'm gonna read this report real quick because they didn't do a video on this one. So inside the whoops, wrong one. Is this the right one? Oh nope, that's not the right one. Boom. All right, so a months-long investigation has resulted in 3 people, including a correctional officer, being charged with bringing drugs into a maximum security prison in Shirley, Mass, and conspiring to distribute them, according to the Middlesex County District Attorney's Office. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that's bullshit. They did not want to put the DOC on blast, but they knew damn well, and they still know damn well, just how much shit made it through and got sold into that prison. They tried to make it sound like they caught it all before it happened, but they were investigating him for months, because for months this shit was going wild, right? So Brandon Beach, a 30-year-old guard at Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, was the alleged mastermind behind the scheme. Beach is being held on $50,000 cash bail after he was accused of violating a host of drug laws, including trafficking in heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. Two alleged accomplices are identified as Sandra Lamastro of Fall River and her son, inmate Robert Page. This alleged scheme, overseen and facilitated by a corrections officer who was sworn to maintain the integrity of the institution, undermined the safety and well-being of every inmate and staffer, Middlesex District Attorney Marion Ryan said in a statement. After the scent of burnt marijuana was detected at the prison in March, officials launched an investigation that ultimately led them to Page, who was allegedly conspiring in coded language with his mother, Lamastro, during phone calls. Officials said those phone calls were used to arrange the delivery of illegal narcotics. The investigation continued with Lamastro's phone being tapped by law enforcement, who later that same month reported that she was seen entering her home while carrying a black bag. Soon afterwards, on that same day, Beach is alleged to have entered the home, leaving shortly with what appeared to be the same black bag, according to the DA's office. Now, this is what strikes me, is that they followed these dudes on the street and like really found out every player and like watched them go pick it up, bring it in, and he was just about to bring it to the place. But listen, police then pulled Beach over in his car and allegedly discovered cocaine, heroin, and marijuana in his possession. He has since been placed on unpaid leave. So that's the news report right there. You guys can please leave comments, drop as many comments in that comment, shout a little 100, man, if you fuck with me in the chat box, bro. The more comments, the better. Please hit the hearts and hundreds. Also, right? So I'm going to get into the story of this guy right here. So that dude, bro, right? Beach. I was in the STP. I started hearing things like, yeah, dude's got 8 bowls of coke, grams of dope, and meth, and even full bottles of K2, right? They had cell phones, all kinds of shit. And I think what they said in their thing, that what ended up setting off this whole thing was they smelled marijuana coming from one of the cells. And it's total bullshit, right? I don't know why the DOC lied, but I'm glad I'm here to point it out, right? They found out what was going on because a cell phone kept on pinging off their thing, and whatever, it was setting off the panic button, right? They never ended up finding a cell phone, but someone's cell phone in that block was setting off the panic button. So they were looking for what they thought was a cell phone at first. Then they started realizing guys were going to the hole and then coming out 2 days later for moving on somebody. This dude, Beach, was taking out people on the block he didn't like by paying them with stuff and giving them shit. And then they would take him out and he would make sure they get out of the hole a couple days later. How the fuck he did that? I don't even know how that didn't raise red flags with the administration, but he did it. And I'm going to say one of the dudes that I know that was involved, his name's Greenhorn. Salute to Greenhorn, bro. We bumped heads a little bit in the joint over some shit through the toilets, a package, whatever. But, all in all, it's in the past. And Greenhorn became a good friend of mine later on in life. When I met him before I went home, he was in Bridgewater, and he ended up pulling one of the staff members that worked at Bridgewater State Hospital. This kid, over his sentence, has been able to bag COs to lug. He bagged and married one of the pretty staff members that worked at Bridgewater State Hospital. Like, she quit and married him and now visits him in the max, right? That's hilarious to me, right? He's banging this chick, right? So he's home now, married to her, right? So this dude, he had the gift of gab, whatever it was, but he also had, shit going on the streets, whatever it was, where he was able to, get himself in the door of this shit. He was not named in that indictment. I don't know what, and I don't know the dude that actually was. I've heard his name a couple times around the way, but for the most part, he was the dude that they're talking about. I think he was the one who told on the whole thing too, because the guy that they're naming is also the person who allegedly told. So that's not, I never read that, so I don't want to say it's that dude that's in that report, but somewhere along the way, one of those dudes that was getting it, there was 3 of them. Now, Greenhorn was allegedly one of those dudes, right? And that's what he told, whatever, right? So, but then there was the other 2 snitching, right? They both, one of them was a snitch before this ever even started, and his nicknames, I believe his D Block was involved in it, right? So this kid D Block, rocking cat, bro, straight, I don't know, man. But all I know is that for a little while, this dude was saying he was no good, and then all of a sudden this shit was going down, bro. There was someone telling real hard, bro. It was one of the convicts, and not to mention Beach probably told all over himself, but there was ounces of coke coming in. There was coke reaching the north side. People were shooting coke with needles, and like, it was madness, bro. But they come in looking for this cell phone. And when they do this search, they do a strip search, and they shake the whole block down. Now, this kid's got the Ips cut across the block and ran straight to one of the cells that they knew was involved. And I believe it was the main guy that they named. Had a bottle of K2 in his cell and drank it. What put this on the map was the kid went into a coma and almost died, and he's now on every bulletin board in the Max as a warning of why not to do K2, right? Along with Boo Boo, because Boo Boo ended up going into a similar situation, and they used medical pictures to scare people not to use K2. And soon after that situation is also when they were picketing outside the prison saying K2 kills and having signs and all that shit. It was crazy. People were uproar about this K2. It's very potent drug, bro. And that's one of the biggest money makers in Massachusetts, since it started doing it, is the K2. So K2, this is nothing that they don't know about, right? And I'm sure I have articles on it up here, and I'm going to share some more shit, right? And I'm also going to get into a story about Nautical Ave in Hyannis, right? A gang on Cape Cod that spanned all the way into Norfolk State Prison. They got drug charges, murder charges, conspiracy charges, everything, bro. This shit was crazy, and it was from my area too. So I'm gonna get into that and how somebody sitting in a Norfolk prison cell ended up getting charged for distribution of Suboxone for being attached to a street federal investigation, which was crazy to me. Then there's another story about the courts in the convicts, and I got video footage of people bringing drugs in through the courts and shit. It's crazy how they did it. But let me try to find this real quick. 5 investigates the new jailhouse drug of choice, Suboxone. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think I put that up there for some reason. But yeah. Anyways, right? So Beach is bringing all this shit in, bro, and getting people moved out of the hole, getting people moved on the block, and he's got these dudes on smash. That whole block's under his spell, and this goes on for a few months until they end up catching him. Boom, when they catch him, the prison dried up for a little bit, but it never stops, right? Suboxone is something that's always in the joint. And now let's get into that real quick. And from what I heard, to wrap that one up, Beach ended up catching 5 years in prison, and he's somewhere out of state. He could have caught more, but I'm pretty sure it was 5 to 7 years or something like that in prison, and they shipped him out of state, and he's somewhere now doing his time. All right, so check this one out, bro. This is a crazy one too, dude, right? This kid was sitting in a Norfolk prison cell, thought he was, on top of the world. He had a cell phone. He was chilling, dude, right? Getting strips from his boys in the street. And all of a sudden, boom, hold up. Nope, that's not it. I'll have it in a second. Boom, right here. Bang. So this right here, bro, right? So this dude was sitting in a fucking prison cell, right? And he's talking on the phone to his boys who, he ended up getting a cell phone inside the joint. He's talking on the phone to his boys, how to get the strips, who to bring them to, but he's also just kicking it, having fun. He's talking about shit to his co-defendant who ended up getting released for he was in a shooting, right? So let me start from the beginning because this is all very important. So Mejia Browning, I'm saying his name because it's all in these reports and it's all in the news and it's whatever, right? So it's already out there. So, and he's on the lineup of one of the top members of this gang. He did Fed time already. He's out, whatever. He's doing good. He's a great kid and actually a good friend of mine. Salute to you, bro. If you're out there and listening, doing good, bro. So, this dude, so he was involved in a shooting on the streets, right? So the victim allegedly said a squad of shooters pulled up to the car and unloaded on the car. Someone got shot, but the only person who got charged was Browning. He ended up getting locked up. Or sorry, Den and Browning, right? So they get locked up, right? And the kid Den gets out. He finishes bid, gets out, but the person who told on him for that shooting is out there. So, time goes by. That lady, that woman, her name's Christina Vieira, right? Hold on. I'm going to tell you right now. Wait. Boom. Oh, man, it's not going to let me fucking read on you fucking stupid ass. Yeah, so I'm going to have to read it literally from up here. So I'm going to get up for a second and read you this shit because my computer, I have to pay for it. But hold on 1 second. Cool. So I'm going to read you this. All right. So I'm going to read you this, right? And it's pretty crazy. So Cape Cod, federal and local authorities say they busted a major drug trafficking organization within a gang whose leader is also suspected in a brutal murder. Tuesday morning, state and local police, along with ATF agents and U.S. Marshals, raided 4 locations in Cape Cod, seizing heroin, cash, guns associated with their months-long investigation. Authorities said the Naughty Block crew, named for the neighborhood in Hyannis where they grew up, was led by Denzel Chisholm, that's Den, who, by the way, knocked out the fucking best CO to ever knock out. His name was Gil. Salute to you for banging out Gil. Knocked him out cold for taking his fan during a shakedown because his fan didn't have his W number on it, right? Den walked up to him and broke his jaw, bro. Laid him out cold. The biggest punk you'll ever meet in your life. His name is Gil, Sergeant Gil, bitch, right? So, Naughty Block crew, named for the neighborhood in Hyannis where they grew up, was led by Denzel Chisholm, who, along with an associate named Christopher Wilkins, purchased large quantities of heroin and then distributed it to be sold by lower-level dealers. The Naughty Crew gang is a major drug trafficking organization that has long-standing history of committing violent criminal acts in many towns throughout the Cape, said ATF agent Dan Kumar. This gang was intent on terrifying or eliminating anyone who posed a threat to their criminal activities. Police said as they were investigating the wide net of drug activity, they stumbled upon a connection to the stabbing death of Hyannis native Christina Ferreira. Ferreira was found stabbed and shot to death at a rest area on Route 6 in the early morning hours. Hold up. You guys still hear me and everything? All right. So Ferrier was found stabbed and shot to death at a rest area on Route 6 in the early morning hours of September 19, 2015. According to court documents released Tuesday, Ferrier was lured there by a man named Tyrone Gomes. Type right, motherfucker. Who was a member of the Naughty Gang and also allegedly sold drugs for Chisholm, who's Den. Police arrested Gomes in March after a surveillance team followed his car from a stash house that Chisholm used to store heroin and cocaine, according to court documents. In an interview with police, Gomes admitted to bringing Ferrier to a rest stop where Chisholm and his sister waited to ambush her, according to federal authorities. In court documents, investigators said the murder was retaliation after Ferrier testified against a fellow Naughty Gang member in a 2011 case that sent him to prison. District Attorney Michael O'Keefe said Ferrier's family was relieved to learn the arrest in connection with her death. Federal authorities said they also hoped the charges would help stem the tide of heroin that has overwhelmed the region and led to the high rate of overdoses and overdose deaths. By removing these individuals that provide the heroin that's widely spread throughout the Cape, we hope this will have a significant impact on the supply that will not be there. These are all the drugs and shit that they put on. This is Twitter. This is all the shit that they found right here. Bunch of money, bunch of guns, this is not everything, but there's more shit than this. But that's definitely a good little score right there for them. This is another one. Boom. See all that Fetty right there off to the right on the big board, the pictures of the Fetty stones and the bags right there, the gray shit and the scale and them getting out of the car. They got pictures and investigations all on them. The whole time this was happening, I was in the Max, right? Hold up. Let me get back to my little boop. Get back to my little destination here. Boom. And by the way, bro, In the Granite donated this to me, $250 to Stream Deck, bro, and I super appreciate that, man. I got it today. Appreciate that. In the Granite, thank you, bro. That's big to me, man. That Stream Deck's gonna come in handy. So what's up, guys? All right. So where was I at with this, man? I was saying, oh yeah, Naughty Ave, right? So this dude Browning, bro, right? He's sitting in his cell and he's talking to these dudes like, yo, they were trading stuff, Fetty and shit like that for strips to send into the prison. And while they're going over these plans, whatnot, Browning didn't realize that they had been tapped out on the streets, that all their phones were tapped. So when he's out in there calling them, talking about bringing the scripts and shit like that, the feds are listening and they're like, yo, who is this guy? What the fuck? Like, he's talking about Norfolk prison and strips and shit. They're like, is he in prison? Boom. They find out who it is. Bro, they show up at his cell door while he's on the phone and the feds busted in his door, Norfolk State Prison, grabbed the phone, hit him with a federal indictment, send him back to the Max, give him DDU, all that shit, and then send him to the feds after his rap and release, right? And that's just what can happen if you're not careful. You don't even know you're bringing in strips, and an unintended consequences is your man's in them. Everybody's, they're pretty much just your man's is selling shit, and my fault, I was fucked up. Your man's out there selling shit and they're getting investigated by the feds, their phones tapped, and you got that cell phone, you're calling in on that cell phone, bang, they hit you, and now you got a fed case for just bringing in some strips to, either make a couple of dollars in canteen or help your mom buy groceries or something, like contribute to your family in some way. But that shit's wild, bro. You just got to be real careful what you do inside there. Also, I got so many good ones, right? So hold up. Boom. Okay, so check this out, right? Bang. This is video, and it's a news report from Channel 5 Investigates. It's video footage of a fucking dude, this chick, she's tucking shit into the elevator in the court. Now, they don't know if the court officer was involved or not, but looks like it to me. You tell me in the comments whether you think that this dude is involved or not. It's the dude court officer, by the way. I want to know what you think.
We are giving you an inside look at how drugs are smuggled into our jails, fueling a dangerous criminal enterprise.
Our Mike Beaudet obtained video from a state police undercover operation that's now raising even more questions about how this is happening.
This is video obtained by 5 Investigates through a public records request. It's from a state police hidden camera placed inside an elevator at Plymouth County Superior Court in Brockton. And it's revealing how drugs could be smuggled from the court into the Plymouth County Correctional Facility by inmates appearing in court.
How big of an issue is this? It's a big issue.
Joseph McDonald is the Plymouth County Sheriff. The jail is constantly working to keep drugs from the outside getting inside, using everything from body scanning to this narcotics analyzer.
Anytime somebody leaves the correctional facility and comes back, That's a concern, and that's historically been the biggest vector of contraband coming.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say historically, maybe it's a good portion of what comes into the county jails, but people don't leave and come back that often from the max. But that is not to say that things don't happen at court, but I'm not going to get into that.
Coming into the correctional facility.
The video shows Christine Lausanne in the elevator. She ended up pleading guilty to a drug distribution charge and attempting to commit a crime.
See, if I take a mugshot, I don't try to have my eyes down at the floor. I feel like it just makes you look guiltier, right?
And was sentenced to 6 months in jail. The state police report details what happened. Lausanne goes into the elevator.
Check this out. Watch what the CO does. Watch how the dude comes in. Everything. I want to know what you think about this CO.
And appears to retrieve an item from her chest area and place it in the railing. Then she knocks on the lockup door and asks for court officer Mark Bradley, and they have a brief conversation. A few minutes later, another court officer, David LaRosa, enters the elevator with a food cart and an inmate. The inmate reaches behind to the railing and then puts something in his pocket. A week later, another undercover operation. Lausanne is back, and this time you clearly see her remove a package from her chest area and place it in the elevator railing. She returns to the lockup and asks for Court Officer Bradley, and they again have a brief conversation. Bradley then escorts inmate Fernando Owens into the elevator. Owens had been on trial for murder, but is not wearing handcuffs. He takes the package of narcotics, placing it in his pocket. He eventually goes back to his isolation cell, where he secreted the package of narcotics in his buttocks. Soon after, police moved in, and Owens agreed to voluntarily pass the narcotics package from his rectum.
When you heard about
So he agreed to shit it out for you?
this case, what did you make of it?
Highly concerned.
Jeff Morrow was the director of security for the trial court who referred the case to the state police.
That detainee should have been fully restrained. The entire event is contrary to our policies, our procedures, and somebody watching this has to wonder if the court officer is involved.
The trial court eventually fired 3 court officers, Mark Bradley, David LaRosa, and William Roach, but they were never charged with a crime and deny any involvement. 5 Investigates first raised questions about the court officers last year after discovering they'd been on paid leave, collecting their $80,000 a year salaries for not working for more than 4 years.
Is this an isolated incident?
This is
4 years of paid leave. Send it.
This is the only situation I dealt with during my tenure that involved the potential that officers were assisting others to bring contraband into the courthouse to be later smuggled into the jails of the prison.
But Morrow is not naive. He knows there's a drug pipeline between the courts and the jails.
This is one of the few opportunities an individual being held in custody might have to come in contact with someone where something can be received.
All 3 court officers who were fired are in arbitration fighting to get their jobs back. Mark Bradley's attorney says the allegations that his client was involved with drug smuggling are, quote, completely ridiculous, and says if he were involved, the district attorney would have charged him. William Roach's attorney says his client wasn't even working on the 2 days the state police captured hidden camera video in the court. We reached out to the union representative.
Well, maybe he wasn't involved if he wasn't working, but I have to say, whoever was working definitely was involved. How the fuck do you get the dude in there with no handcuffs? He's on trial for murder. That motherfucker never comes out of his cell without handcuffs on, ever. Especially not in Massachusetts, bro. I've not got out of my cell without handcuffs on. I've not been on trial for murder. That dude definitely was involved. I'm just saying, I think he was. I mean, regardless, I don't give a shit. But I would tell you a story about the Max, right? So this dude, I want court officers to bring us drugs. I want COs to flip. I want people to flood the place. Because when I was in there, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't have anything else to do. But with that said, real quick, I just saw this thing on Instagram, right? About rats who get hot. So the rats They put these one bottle of heroin laced shit and one bottle with regular water, right? The rats with nothing in their cage will kill themselves with the heroin within days. They put the same bottles in a cage with this place called Rat Park, and it's got all this special shit for the rats in there, right? The rats never touch the heroin water. So for whatever reason, the rats who are locked up in prison with all this shit to do don't get high. Figure that. So maybe we can learn something from that. But either way, right? You know, when I was in there, it's like all I wanted to do was get high. Now, what I think now is that I was put in a situation where I was getting high because I was bored. I was also getting high to cope with my depression and anxiety from being in prison. So there's a few different things. They under-medicate you and overstress you and give you nothing to do and no way to get away from it. So yeah, what you do is you run to the drugs. You run to get high. You know what I mean? And there is those strong individuals who just don't care. They don't get high. They hit the gym and they go to mediums. They don't touch the shit. But the people who do that are so few and far between that it doesn't matter. It's not even part of the equation, because what we're talking about is the most of the people, right? Most of the convicts, most of them do that, right? They go in there, they get high. The first thing, Suboxone and K2, those are the two biggest drugs in the joint, right? And speaking of that, right, check this out. Right, check this out. This is boom right here. So I'm gonna, damn it, I stopped sharing. So I'm gonna share this real quick. This is called Suboxone, prison's new drug of choice, and it's a little video real quick. Watch this. Boom, check this out, right? My bad. I forgot I didn't turn that music off. So check this out. Boom. Hold up.
Inside look at the drug that's wreaking. 5 Investigates taking you behind bars tonight for an inside look at the drug that's wreaking havoc inside our jails and prisons. This is a drug that's supposed to help users fight addiction.
But our Kathy Curran discovered it's.
So with that being said right there, it's supposed to help people fight addiction. Yes, it does get you high for the first couple of times you do it. But when you maintain a habit, what we call inside prison is maintaining a habit, which is you're doing about a 16th of Suboxone to an 1/8 of the Suboxone once or twice a day on average. That's pretty much what people do. A lot of people who are very broke and poor, they probably have nothing in their cells. Some of these dudes who get high habitually, they have nothing, right? You go in their cell, there's not so you got the cell, the bunk on the left, the shelf in the back, the sink on the right, and then the shelf above the sink. And usually what you'll see is in the shelf above the sink is toothpaste and toothbrush and soap. And, above the sink, you'll see some soap bars. And on the shelf in the back, you'll see, hygiene packed all the way to the front of the shelf, a couple bottles of shampoo, conditioner, some extra shit, probably hair grease, because everybody has hair grease for whatever reason in there. And, to make candles with, light fires, make tattoo ink. Hair grease is good for a lot of things, even putting on the top of your tattoos, whatever. Speaking of contraband and everything else you could use. But people don't do an exorbitant amount of Suboxone when you're in there. You do little tiny pieces. So maintaining a habit, all you're really doing is making it so you're not sick, but that you experience the benefits of the anti-anxiety and anti-depression part of that drug. And that's what really draws me back to it over and over. Is it made me feel like an overwhelming sense of well-being. That's what it literally states in the side effects of this drug, an overwhelming sense of well-being. But check this out.
It's become the new drug of choice for inmates, and to get it, they're going to extraordinary lengths. Take a look.
You're about to see a drug deal go down.
So that's the max right there. That's the visiting room in the max. Check this out.
Inside the.
That's two dudes in the visiting room in the max. So that's a girl visiting her man. Check it out. They're doing a handoff.
Visiting room at Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, the most secure prison in the state. Watch closely as this woman grabs a plastic baggie out of her shirt, passes it to the inmate who quickly stuffs it in his mouth. Inside were
just like that, man. And you got to be on point. One of those ips that caught that shit, you know, one of those ips that caught that shit, they were watching that dude. They had rat information telling them, look at this dude when he goes to the visit. Or they were hearing him on the phone doing mad money transactions and blah, 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 right? So they were watching him for a reason. Take that point. If you're a convict and you're going into prison, low key's the way to go.
strips of Suboxone, an addictive prescription drug normally used to treat opiate addiction. And 5 Investigates has discovered it's the jailhouse drug of choice being smuggled into state prisons and county lockups.
It's an ideal drug to smuggle. You can get large quantities in a very small package.
At Sousa, security teams sweep the visiting room.
So I'm gonna answer that. So John B said something. I'm gonna answer that real quick, John B. That's not true.
Before and after every visit, hundreds of cameras watch the inmates' every move.
We've had packages up to 250 strips, all the way down to, minimal 3.
So remember when I tell you the stories about when I went out to play football, I had a batch of booze in my bed, and Officer Phelps found it, and I got lugged the morning or the night before that big gym fight happened. That happened the next morning. This is Officer Phelps. He was my block cop. This guy right here.
One strip coming through.
We have a full.
That's this guy right here. This dude. This is Silva, Superintendent Silva. He's the superintendent before Kenaway and the superintendent before the madness started, right? When he was superintendent, I think there was a period of time, about 2 years, where there wasn't even one staff assault, right? Tell me why that is. Tell me why this superintendent can control the fact that there was not one single staff assault the entire time that he was a superintendent within 6 days. Or something like very short time period of Kenaway coming in and changing all this shit, that started getting wiped down left and right. Tell me why that is. Tell me why that is, bro. He knew exactly what he was doing, and that's why he did it, bro. He needed money. They needed funds. They needed to tell the public that we were monsters in there so they could get something done, and they made it happen, and we were so stupid we couldn't even see it coming.
Time investigative staff who does nothing but work on investigations leading to the seizures of Suboxone, which they're very successful at.
It's
the little skinny Spanish dude right there is Rodriguez.
24/7, 365 battle when it comes to inmates trying to get basically drugs into the facility.
That dude I never seen before. This is the drug sniffing dogs that they bring into the Worcester County Jail. Now they're switching to Worcester County Jail, I believe.
The weapons used in that battle in Worcester County include drug dogs that sniff out the small orange strips.
Oh, cute puppy. He's a cute puppy.
That won't be allowed.
Mailroom staff and security have found Suboxone glued into cards and photos. This letter was soaked in the drug.
Oh, no, John B. So check it out real quick, right? You can definitely get it at the Medline. I was on methadone when I was locked up, but I had to go in there on methadone. If you go in there with the Fetty habit, you will be kicking fentanyl on that freaking floor wherever you're kicking it, because they're not giving you methadone if you're not on methadone. They're not giving you Suboxone if you're not on Suboxone, unless you're going home and you're sentenced to go home, not like from court or something like that. You have to be a sentenced convict and go home as a sentenced convict while they know you're going home within a certain amount of time. That's it.
Drug. It's also been melted down and used as paint.
See, that's how we were doing it. That was the primitive way we were doing it in the max. When we first started getting them, boom, just like that. When it was the pills, we would break it up and make it into like paint and glue and sparkly stuff on the paper. And we would just take the paper and sniff it or whatever.
They'll just add water and paste it down and make it look like they're painting balloons onto a card.
We do daily random drug testing of inmates. We also change our mail policy regularly, and we've also eliminated any contact visits that an inmate can have with anyone. We've tried to utilize everything we have to stay ahead of the curve.
Stop one for...
Yeah, what's it done for you, pal? Nothing at all. All you did is take away the connection. People have a real life connection to the community by contact visits.
Any inmate coming into the Worcester County Jail is right here, where they take a ride through this full body scanner.
It detects pretty much anything an inmate's trying to smuggle in, from weapons to drugs.
What we're looking at here is an inmate came in off the street, swallowed a bag of heroin. That's it at the end of his digestive tract.
That's a load of bullshit. They literally just lied. That is not what that is. That is not what that is. That literally, look it, okay? There is not a bag of heroin in this motherfucker. All right, so let me tell you something, right? If you tuck it in your ass, there's nothing they can see. If you swallow it in your mouth, they're going to find it, right? Do not swallow a package and go through that scanner because they're going to see it in your belly. If it's in your butt, it looks like a piece of shit. You can't tell the difference between something that looks like a piece of shit and something that might be like a knot in a balloon. But you got to be careful with the shapes and shit like that, because a perfectly circle shape with a little knot at the thing, that it's obviously a balloon. But like, they can't see that shit through that scanner if it's in your butt like that.
5 inmates. 5 investigators took a look at some of the cases where Suboxone has surfaced behind bars. During the past year and a half in
That's the max right there. That's a cell in the max. See that ladder right there? That stair ladder? That's where I got this old scar right here, bro. I was fighting in the cell. I went to dive at the dude. I knocked him onto the bed and I fucking bang, dived right into that bad boy. Split my shit. But good old times, man. Good old times.
Susa Baranowski alone, 300.
Not to mention, I promise you, and I swear to you on my dead brother's soul, right? You see this cell right here? This cell, this exact cell that we're in, this cell. I'm not even playing with you. I'm not lying. This is L1, cell 3. And I called this kid TJ in this cell right here, got into a fight with him right in that cell, right in that doorway. And I knocked him out right out in front of that doorway where the stairs are. I laid his ass the fuck out, dude, right there. Just for a little, because when I saw that shit, I'm like, yo, that is the actual cell I fought in, that fucking cell. And I mean, I've gotten in fights in a million different cells, but that's one of them. That's one of them.
Alone, 307 inmates tested positive for the drug. The strips have been intercepted hundreds of times in prisons and jails across the state. It's been stashed inside Bibles, in the Quran, and stuffed in socks.
They think the system's failing.
This woman, whose identity we're protecting, says her boyfriend, who's doing state time, was clean for several years. Now he's behind bars, addicted and desperate to get his hands on Suboxone.
The prison's flooded with Suboxone. He said, even if I wanted to get away from it, I can't. It's everywhere.
We need to look at where it's coming from. This is a nationwide opiate problem, and
that's the max right there.
It doesn't stop at our front door.
An 8-milligram strip of Suboxone costs about $8. The going rate behind bars is at least 10 times that, at $80 to $100. If an inmate in state prison has a history of drug use, they're only allowed non-contact visits, and many of the counties have outright eliminated contact visits.
So there you have it, man. That's that right there. But and I'm not sure, did you guys even watch that with me? Shit. Yeah, you did. I'm pretty sure you did. So check it out, right? So the prices of strips, let me tell you something. The prices of strips went over $1,000 after 2020, right? After 2020, after, the shit happened with my brother where they jumped the CO over there in N2, and then the thing with the king, with this alleged when the Kings jumped the 3 cops down there, and then the thing in P2, and then the thing with the Crips in K2, they fucking shut the place down, and there was no drugs coming into the place. I've never seen it dry like that, and it stayed like that. I don't know why, but it stayed like that for so long that was when I got clean. That was when I finally said, fuck it, man. I couldn't even get high no more. I had dudes trying to tell me $1,200 for one strip. One strip was $1,200 to $1,400. So that's the cheap end, is $1,200. And the regular going price at that time in the max was $1,400 for one 8-milligram strip of Suboxone. So one reason you should never go to prison is because you're going to end up spending, if you're getting high there, you're going to be going broke doing that. But yeah, so Worcester And every single other county has started to body scan people since, I don't know, 2012 or something like that. It's been going on for a long time. I don't know if Worcester did that starting back then, but I know starting then they started implementing it all over the place, different places at a time. I know those machines cost a lot of money and taxpayer dollars are paying for them. Those are literally airport scanning machines. So if you don't know, you're paying for these massively overly priced machines that don't even detect the actual drugs coming through. Because like I said, they can't see drugs in your butt. I'm going to actually show you a picture real quick. I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like inside of it. All right. This is what the drugs look like inside of your rectum through that machine. Watch this. Boom. This is what they look like. Okay, hold up. I got to find it. It's on this page somewhere. No. 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 Come on. I just seen a picture of this shit. Hold up. Oh, right here. My fault. Boom. This is it right here. This is what a picture looks like inside of someone's rectum. This right here. That's the fucking picture of what it looks like. That's a nip bottle that someone put liquid K2 in. So the liquid K2, they seen this nip bottle in someone's rectum. But you see, that's a nip bottle, correct? A nip bottle. They barely detect that shit. You see that? If it wasn't a nip bottle with a metal cap and a specific shape to it like that, they wouldn't be able to see that. That's your rectum. You see the other dark spots around it? That's what a balloon may look like, right? And I'm saying there might be other shit in his ass, and this dude got away with it because he gave up that nip bottle pretty easy and walked away. But I think all them other dark spots are probably shit too. Either that or they're shit, because you can't tell. You really can't tell. So that's why I say it's a load of trash. They just spent all our taxpayer dollars for a bunch of nothing. And there's nothing to fucking look at in them things, right? And as far as contraband goes inside the joint, I'm going to finish this off with weapons, right? How we make weapons in there, I got to go real soon, but you got to take razor blades. You break the razor blades and you put them in something. You take a peanut butter jar lid, right? And you cut the circle part of the peanut butter jar lid and you take the grippy part off. The sides, you just take the middle part. You take a razor blade and cut around the edges until it pops out. Then you take that and you cut it in half and you put little holes in the side of the thing. So on the flat edge, there's two little holes and you put the razor blade that you pop out of the razor in the middle of that. And then you take a paper clip or whatever you have and you tie it through those holes so that the razor doesn't slide around. And then you got a little holder like that. And then you take either whatever you got, something steel. What we used to use was the clips. We would break them off the rec deck that hold the fence to the poles on the rec deck. And they were like clips, these flat clips. And we would break those clips or we would use the back of the watches, but they took those away from us. They don't have metal on the back of the watches anymore. So we would use the clips and we would make a groove. And once you got a groove going, you take like a piece of, cardboard from the back of your notepad and you put it on the metal and you make a line, your groove with the edge of that. So it's a straight line. And then you take your razor and you start cutting through like that with a steel razor blade. I mean, you're going to need a few of them. The razors dull down and they burn out real quick and they'll start flaking off and ripping apart. So you just change the razor out and use the same peanut butter lid cap and you just go through it. And at one point, you're going to have to take it out of the peanut butter lid cap, turn it sideways and just cut like that because it won't go all the way through. And metal is so tough, that steel metal is so tough that you're going to have to cut it almost all the way through, all the way, or else you're going to leave a hook on the metal. So if you try to break it off before it's cut all the way through, it'll be a big hook and then you can't really hide that shit. And the COs are going to see it. And then they're going to come looking for what's missing. And that's no good. Nobody wants that, right? But yo, salute to everybody, man, who showed up tonight, bro. I appreciate everybody. This is the end of this live stream. It's actually 8 o'clock and I got to get rocking. Please hit the like button, everybody. Please hit that like button. Please hit the share button. If you have any super chats or anything that, cash apps, whatever you would like to help the channel grow with, please do that now. Jay Williams hit me up, right, as a little, just a little update, whatever. Go to my community tab right now. The Jay Williams video that I shared, the live stream that I shared, go either leave a comment under that video and be like, yeah, we want Jay to come on your channel, or go to that video and be like, yeah, you should do that interview with the W Number podcast. I haven't heard back from him yet, but he left a message on my thing saying he wants to come on and do an interview. So salute to you, Jay Williams, man. I appreciate it. And if you do come on, you do come on. If you don't, I respect your hustle. And hopefully one day I'm making all that bread that you were talking about, because I ain't making nothing like that right now. But salute to all the soldiers and warriors who come and watch my channel every single day, man. Respect to all you guys, bro. This channel is nothing without you. This channel is nothing without you, bro. Like, yeah, I'm here, whatever, but I don't exist without you guys, man. Share my shit, like my shit, get it out there. Let's get this shit on the map, bro, because there's too many people, so many frauds out there, man. But yeah, bro, respect, man, and salute to all the guys doing prison content, man. Even the guys like, everybody do. Jay Williams, bro, but there's some good dudes out there fucking around, and I salute to all you guys, man. I respect your hustle, I respect your grind, I respect your dedication. The will to succeed is strong in me, bro. So I'm gonna be there at one point. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, man. We can cover whatever else in the next one, man. I hope everybody here tonight has a great night for the rest of their night. And much love and respect to you guys, man. W Number. Ow!